Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking conversation intelligence capabilities, Viva Sales, and why they might be interesting to Dynamics 365 customers. My guest is Chuck Ingram, founder of CongruentX, and also a CRM industry veteran. CongruentX is the sponsor of this episode, and we start off with a quick update on what Chuck and his team are talking about with their D365 clients these days. We also discuss what they've learned about Viva Sales, why they see so much promise in it, and in other conversation intelligence technology he'll talk about, and what Microsoft's other big bets like Nuance mean for the future of CRM at the company. All right, Chuck, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jason. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, as always, great to talk to you too. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I thought we could just start by having you tell us a little bit more about what's new at CongruentX and what you've been up to recently. I certainly know I've seen you on online in some moderated discussions and so forth. But what should our listeners know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun times. So it's always really cool and most rewarding when what we do helps other people. And when you kind of think about CRM and even like RevOps, that's one area where people aren't getting what they want always. So we've had this mission for the last couple of years. A few of us came from sort of big practices and came together to help people get CRM right so they could grow. And what we thought was, like, so many companies are focused on customer experience, like 9 out of 10. They're buying a whole bunch of technology, CRM and conversational intelligence, which we'll talk about, and that, sales enablement and all those things. And it's not always working the way they want it to. And we sort of sussed out that part of it was the way that people consume information. That's changed, but the way the tech is implemented is not changed. So we take this. We started from the beginning taking this other approach to things as opposed to the big project, big feature dump, and then scoot to the next thing. We think a little more of a client approach where a minimum functionality to start with to help people be successful, help them adopt it and achieve outcomes. And that looks like a subscription for us. But what's happened over the last year and a half is amidst a whole bunch of client successes, so the whole 50% CRM success, ours is like pretty close to 100. And we've gotten really encouraged by that. And we start looking at what's working and what's not working. And we put some tech in the middle of this subscription and we call it CX Pulse. And it basically helps us do some things that people were having to do, but the computer can, software and AI can monitor things for us. And it helps us really climb up the value ladder with clients and get closer to helping people get outcomes. So it's basically we're using tools and coaching to help people get outcomes, and we just don't turn on the tech. So it feels a little bit more like a tech-enabled service than it did at the beginning, where it was just a subscription service. So it's been a lot of fun to help these clients be successful and that kind of thing.
It's really interesting to hear you describe that because it's coming up more and more often in conversations that I have with people in the Microsoft channel. This idea, well, two things I think that are sort of related. One is, like you said, the idea of finding new ways to create sort of subscriptions for what traditionally were considered sort of hourly billable services. And then also, I guess the idea of, like, if I understood you correctly, almost diverting hours away from some of the more standard developer or technical tasks and reallocating those investments into more strategic things that will presumably have a better impact on
100%
on ultimate outcomes.
You nailed it. We want the tech to do the things that were kind of boring for people to do. And for example, it can let you know over the weekend that something went wrong and we fixed it, and the client just comes in on Monday and their system was repaired. But it can also tell us if somebody's not using the tech as much as they could. And we're even now moving into an area where we're attaching what we're doing in CRM and that sort of stack, sales and marketing and service stack. We're attaching that to the go-to-market that the client has, so we can constantly be monitoring what works and get the tech out of people's way and get that digital friction out of the way so that they can get what they want. And not just that, we have 3 filters: help people get what they want, make it easy, and then make it enjoyable.
And what you're talking about there is, it sounds like all on the, I would say the user, like the technology user side, as opposed to the customer side.
Yeah, well, it's so that, right? It's so that we can help people take better care of their clients, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
And it's almost like the client is at the intersection of where the go-to-market strategy is, the people that that have to walk out that strategy, but they have to use the technology to walk it out. The people that own the IT tools that support that, all in support of the making things easier for a client. You make the company more sticky, make the client enjoy doing business with a company.
All right. Well, I know there's a few particular technologies that have really been top of mind for you as we were sort of talking about what we were going to chat about here. And one that you mentioned was conversational intelligence, I guess more kind of broadly. And I said, oh, great, that's an interesting topic. Then I went and thought about it, and I actually became a little bit uncertain of exactly where you have seen the most promise for it and maybe the most impact. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're excited about conversational intelligence?
Man, I tell you, there's a zillion uses for this. There's a lot around the contact center and things like that. I'm telling you, for CRM, and especially related to sales, it could be a new day, Jason. It could be a totally new day. And I really mean this. And here's why I think this. Sales has sort of been the last industry to really do digital transformation. Right? It was like marketing got a hold of data a few years ago and has become so, like, they can measure everything in marketing. They know what works, what doesn't work. They can coach. On the service side, they've you hear good friends that we all have talk about IoT and putting on VR headsets, and they get active coaching on how to fix the machine and stuff like that. And then sales, we're still kind of back in the same, I need you to make 10 calls. And if you make 10 calls, you might get 2 appointments. And, it hasn't matured the same way, especially digitally. And I think that conversational intelligence can help us really with what the promise of CRM was. And I regrettably or happily have been doing CRM for 20 years or more. But the whole idea with CRM was if you put data in here, I'm going to give you back something awesome. And it really hasn't always worked that way. We would go to clients in the 2001 and talk about, hey, if you do this CRM stuff, we can use it to coach your team members, your reps, so that you send the best rep out on every call. And it really didn't always work that way, because the data going into CRM was such a drag on people, and what came out was not always effective enough to do the coaching that people wanted. And then a few years ago, we started to see conversational intelligence solutions around sales and customer service come out, like Gong, and you could have either you or I could listen to our call, Jason, or our manager could listen to our call, and you could coach better that way. And that got really exciting. Now, of course, Microsoft come out with their Viva Sales preview, and it's going to be a game changer as well, because it has all of the Office connections. So super, super exciting, and could be a new day.
Yeah, that is one of the really interesting things about what Microsoft's done. It really makes it a challenging thing to watch, I guess you'd say, if you're a technology buyer, or maybe like a client of yours or something, someone in the Microsoft space they see what Microsoft's doing. They see that there's obviously specialized vendors who really focus on this kind of challenge and integrate obviously with bigger CRMs. It can't be necessarily an easy decision if you are a head of sales or even a CIO, I suppose, trying to figure out which way to go to bring some of these capabilities into your organization.
I think you're absolutely right. I think maybe a good first step for most people is to think through what are the right conversations to have and over what channels. And that can kind of inform some of the technology decisions. And I almost think of it like, I used to play soccer in school, and imagine if the coach sends you out, or it's any sport, but imagine the coach sends the team out to play, but the coach has to sit in the locker room and can't watch it on TV, can't see what's going on. Then the team comes in for halftime and they have to tell the coach what happened during the game. And then the coach has to suss out what's working and what not. And then CRM comes along so the players can enter what happened in the game in fields in this structured database. And that's still not that great. But this conversational intelligence is almost like the coach getting to be much closer to being on the field with the players to be able to see what's going on. Say, hey, Jason, what if looks like you're talking a little bit more than you probably could in calls, and maybe you should use these type phrases as you ask your questions and stuff like that. And it ends up being a much greater coaching opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Are you encouraged by what you've seen in Viva Sales so far? My first take was I thought it looks like a very interesting concept. I just haven't seen it in practice yet.
Yeah, Microsoft, like any company, the first version of something, they're sort of working things out. The thing that Microsoft has that I think it might be harder for other companies who aren't as connected to the stack is they can look at all the ways that we communicate with people across multiple channels a little more easily than, say, one of the niche kind of players. And I say niche respectfully. Some of these companies are absolute unicorns and huge and doing a great job. I think the cool thing about Microsoft is they're going to be able to look at emails, conference calls, individual phone calls that we send back and forth to clients, and pull that data automatically into CRM and make it efficient so that we don't have to take all that time to log it. But then they can make the suggestions from that data, which is extremely encouraging. And they actually leave you some leeway in here to think about the conversations that each industry or each individual business needs to have. And that's where we look to bring some value to the table. Is we have one of the people on our team that leads our value acceleration practice, JC Quintana. He's actually written some books and taught at universities about the language and a framework to have better business relationships. And, we all say customer relationship management, and somehow the relationship part gets left out of it. And he has this framework, and we basically took that framework and put it in Gong, and we're putting it into Viva Sales as well. And we think that can help you have the right conversations overall. There's usually, why reinvent the wheel? There's science behind these conversations and advancing these conversations, or getting notifications if you're going the wrong way with your conversations.
So the challenges here is maybe picking a direction and actually kind of embracing some of these ideas. You've talked a little bit about this already, but if an organization is going to make the decision to, invest in Viva Sales or even in Gong, what should they expect as some of the benefits?
Just think about people in sales right now. I think 82% of clients think that salespeople aren't prepared for meetings, and salespeople even admit that half the time they're not prepared. So the ability to show up to a call and be prepared. I think one of the big four did some stats around this that said that, I'll have to look it up, but it's like so many less conversations to advance to a closed deal, and, bringing insights to people earlier in the conversation versus asking some of those questions. It could just totally change the game. And from an efficiency standpoint, I think 47% of the people think that that tech is holding them back. What if the tech was helping them go forward? You just do the flip side of some of these stats, and it's absolutely amazing what can be accomplished here.
Just one thing I wanted to, I guess, double back on, because as I was sort of preparing for us to talk and thinking about conversation intelligence and what Microsoft is doing, to bring it back to that, I know that I started doing a bit of just searching, because just to remind myself of exactly where they are. I knew about Viva Sales, and this is sort of I guess you would call it a new iteration of their attempt at, or their approach to it. They had shown off in preview some features within the D365 suite specifically, and Viva Sales is not really a part of D365. I mean, I think there's R&D, obviously a lot of R&D overlap from what we've learned. Do you think, or I guess how confident do you feel, I know you obviously can't speak for Microsoft, but that Viva Sales is sort of the future of bringing these kinds of capabilities, this way of thinking to the market from Microsoft?
Well, I'll say it this way. I think that this conversational intelligence, the discipline of conversational intelligence, is absolutely here to stay. I mean, if you look at Gong's valuation, you look at SalesLoft has it, Outreach has it, the seismic, you just go around the horn, these sort of sales enablement, sales engagement platforms, their valuations are off the chart. And I think the CRM platforms, there's value in having it included there as well. So like you said before, Jason, you've got an option. Hey, do I want it, the built-in one that comes with Office or with my CRM, or do I want to go get a niche solution? So I think the discipline is going to be here for a long, long time. It's here to stay. And at least the conversations I've had with the Microsoft product teams, it seems like they were already making progress a couple years ago with this inside of Dynamics, and they just decided to bring those teams together that were working on it on I guess modern work or office space with this Viva overall solution, and they decided to bring those two things together for Viva Sales. So there's a lot of people working on this inside of Microsoft, as I understand it. So 100%, it's here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 cents is that you really can't, sort of undervalue the importance of this decision of Microsoft to take Viva, which had been sort of broad employee learning, HR kind of tools, and say, we're going to build tools for specific roles within an organization, because that's basically what Dynamics was supposed to be. And so what this means for the future, I mean, it's anyone's guess, but I think you can't say it's not important. And I mean, what's the next role going to be? Is it going to be the finance professional? Is it going to be, the marketing director? It's very interesting. There's just a lot to I guess a lot of those types of questions to be answered if this is really the direction they're going.
It's certainly cool. And the exciting thing is none of us ever wanted, like, I'm doing air quotes, do CRM. This sort of just takes that, or at least a big part of it, out of the way, so you can have those right conversations with clients, either digitally or in person.
All right, yeah. Anything else? I mean, the only other thing I did want to touch on, and I think you mentioned it earlier, was when it comes to conversation intelligence at Microsoft, I mean, you can't ignore Nuance, right? It does seem like Microsoft's now making a big push to get Nuance technology sort of at least into the mind of the Dynamics CRM community and having value there. It does, like you said, seem to be starting with the contact center and this digital contact center platform and trying to sort of focus it into that idea, because it really is more of an idea from what I can tell than a product at this point. But I don't know, anything else you've seen where it comes to integrating Nuance technology yet?
I've been excited about as a matter of fact, our team has a lunch and learn right now as you and I record this in about 30 minutes, where the whole team is going to go at CongruentX, going to kind of go through what's there in the contact center. We've spent a whole bunch of time on Viva Sales and what our add-on to Viva Sales, which we called Dialogue Prime for a while. To us, both are a platform, right? Microsoft's an amazing platform company. And if you look at Nuance being a platform for conversational intelligence across all these solutions, Office, whatever, all of a sudden, how much faster can I speak my emails than type? For me, much faster. And I think I don't know how much of Nuance is in Viva Sales right now, but you can't imagine that it won't be. So imagine that platform becoming more and more capable. And then you've got this cool platform that you can put each company's secret sauce on top of, what are the right conversations for ABC company to close a deal? And what are the conversations that our best salesperson or best customer service person has? And how do we bake that in so that we coach everybody to have at least that basic framework when they're interacting with a client?
Yeah, it's a promising outlook for the future. Certainly not an easy one. And, to bring things back to something we were saying near the beginning here, I think the best outcome would be that it allows people like you and teams like yours to really spend time on some of those challenges within your clients' organizations rather than how do we set up the technology or how do we build something that you need that isn't there.
So, Jason, we actually put together this framework on how to get started with this, which is, I think it's pretty cool because these days, and I'm addicted to podcasts, including this one, it feels like that people are less inclined to, okay, I'm going to spend $20 million for a 4-year ERP or CRM engagement. And, maybe if you have to, you do. But right now, in this climate, people are looking at like, what can I do in a month that's going to give me exponential value? And we've taken that framework and applied it to what we call Dialogue Prime for Viva Sales. And it basically pulls the IT folks, the business folks, kind of people that are having the conversations together with the people who put together the go-to-market. And we do some design thinking and pick the key conversations that they need to have and where this kind of tech can help them do it. We pick those and we walk them out over the next couple of weeks in the little engagement. And we've seen some really good initial results. And of course, this is something we've done with another technology for a little while, but we've seen some good results already with this Dialogue Prime for Viva Sales. So excited about this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'd love to hear more about sort of how it progresses over time, because I imagine it's one of these things that will mature and evolve as you work with clients on it. So it's pretty cool.
For sure. And we'll with any new solution, there's going to be holes and gaps that we'll all uncover. And we found a few, and I'm sure others will find some too. But the long-term future is super duper bright for this Viva Sales.
All right. Very interesting. Well, Chuck, anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up here? There's been some pretty interesting stuff here.
No, it's super, super exciting. If folks are interested in it, hit us up, congruentx.com, getcrmright.com.
Very good. Well, Chuck Ingram, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Chuck for joining me. And now a sponsor message. For more information, you can work with CongruentX by taking the 30-day Viva Sales Challenge. Visit congruentx.com or see the link in the show notes for more information on Dialogue Prime for Viva Sales. And that's it for this episode. If you want to reach me, send me an email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. And for all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.